Properties in Italy under $130,000 still exist, and some of them are surprisingly solid. I've picked 7 real listings with prices accurate at the time of this roundup, each from a different part of the country. Some are move-in ready, others need updates, but together they give a clear picture of what this budget can get you. We're going from the lowest price up, comparing how the value changes and which properties stand out along the way. We'll look at the key factors: condition, location, layout, and how practical each one is to live in. By the end, a few of these options stand out more than you'd expect. Let's get into it. We open in the Abruzzo, in the Gran Sasso e Monti della Laga National Park, high in the central Apennines where the mountains are serious and the air is the cleanest in central Italy. Abruzzo is often called the greenest region in Europe, with a landscape that moves from rugged peaks to rolling foothills and quiet villages that feel untouched by mass tourism. There's a sense of verticality here. Valleys that drop quickly, ridgelines that define the horizon, and weather that can shift in a matter of hours. The terrain doesn't just sit still, it shapes movement, defines routes, and determines how settlements developed over time. Rocca di Cambio sits high, one of the highest inhabited municipalities in the Apennine range. And that elevation defines everything. Colder winters, crisp summers, and views that stretch across entire valleys. The light feels sharper, the silence more complete, and the distance from major urban centers becomes part of the appeal rather than a drawback. Even the soundscape changes. Fewer interruptions, more wind, more space between human activity. And that separation becomes something you notice immediately, not as an absence, but as a presence of something else. Clarity. The kind of clarity that comes from fewer competing elements, where each detail stands out more distinctly. The built environment doesn't try to dominate the landscape here, it adapts to it. Structures follow contours, roads bend rather than cut through, and everything feels slightly more considered because it has to be. Living here isn't about convenience layered on top of geography. It's about working with it. In winter, it functions as a ski base. In summer, it becomes a hiking and cycling hub, with trails radiating outward into protected landscapes that feel expansive and largely untouched. That seasonal duality adds to the value proposition, not in terms of speculation, but in terms of usability. The architecture is practical and mountain-driven, compact forms, thick walls, balconies designed to face the sun, and materials chosen for durability rather than decoration. You see repetition in structure because repetition works here. Buildings that hold heat, resist wind, and maximize light. And what's remarkable is that the pricing here still reflects the region's reality, not its potential. It hasn't been overrun, and that shows up directly in the numbers in a way that feels increasingly rare in Italy. There's no inflated narrative attached, just what the place actually is. That honesty carries through into the housing stock itself. Nothing feels over-designed or artificially elevated. The appeal comes from alignment between place, structure, and use. It's a location where expectations adjust quickly, and once they do, the value becomes easier to understand. $87,600 and 75,000 euros for a cozy duplex in the Serilato 80 condominium, and from the moment you read this listing, it earns its place at the top of the list. The property is a large 2-room apartment, spread across 2 floors, and that vertical separation adds a sense of space that a single-level layout wouldn't achieve at this size. It changes how the apartment feels. Less compressed, more defined, with distinct zones rather than one continuous area. First floor, a hallway leading to a separate kitchenette with a window, a large living area with a fireplace, a guest bathroom, and a beautiful south-facing panoramic balcony. The orientation matters here. South-facing in a mountain environment means light, warmth, and usability across seasons. It's not just about brightness, it's about how often the space can actually be used comfortably, and that usability becomes the defining factor over time. It's the difference between a space that looks good in photos and one that consistently works in practice. The way light enters, the way heat is retained, the way rooms connect, all of it adds up to something that either supports daily life or complicates it. Here, the configuration leans towards support. Second floor via an internal staircase, a comfortable bathroom with shower, and a large bedroom with a second south-facing panoramic balcony. Sleeping configuration including a double bed and a bunk bed, sleeping 3. That configuration alone hints at how the property has been used. Flexible, accommodating, designed for both personal use and hosting. The duplication of balconies across levels reinforces the connection to the exterior. No matter where you are in the apartment, the view is part of the experience. It creates continuity between floors rather than separating them entirely. The vertical layout also introduces a subtle separation between activity and rest. Living below, sleeping above, a pattern that naturally organizes movement through the space without needing additional division. The finishes are described in the listing as excellent. Parquet flooring throughout, very bright spaces. And it is sold fully furnished, no major renovations. A place you can actually move into. Furniture included, fireplace working, 2 panoramic balconies looking south over the Apennines. According to the listing, this is a property that's ready to use immediately, which removes one of the biggest barriers to entry in this price range, the need for immediate investment after purchase. The internal flow, living below, sleeping above, also gives the apartment a natural rhythm that suits both short stays and longer periods. You can close off the upper level, maintain warmth below, and adjust how the space functions depending on the season. And the best part is, a fully furnished 2-floor duplex with a fireplace and 2 south-facing mountain panorama balconies in a national park for $87,600 is an opening that makes you wonder how the rest of the list improves on it. The next one shifts dramatically south, and everything changes with it. Puglia is light, limestone, and horizon. The region stretches along the Adriatic and Ionian seas, defined by olive groves that have been in production for centuries, and towns that look sculpted rather than built. The visual contrast from Abruzzo is immediate. Where the mountains compress the landscape, Puglia opens it up. Distances feel longer, the sky feels wider, and the terrain flattens into something more continuous. The architecture is unmistakable. Whitewashed facades, curved edges, an interior shaped by stone rather than timber. Even the way light interacts with surfaces changes. Brighter, more reflective, less absorbed. That brightness creates a different kind of spatial experience. Shadows are sharper, contrast more defined, and interiors tend to reflect rather than contain light. It changes how spaces are perceived throughout the day. The climate is warmer, drier, and built for outdoor living, with long seasons that extend well beyond summer. And culturally, it carries a slower rhythm. Long meals, evening walks, and a lifestyle that leans toward simplicity over speed, where daily routines stretch outward into public spaces. Life spills into the streets here in a way that feels different from the enclosed mountain villages of Abruzzo. Within Puglia, Ostuni stands out immediately. $92,300, 79,000 euros. A beautiful little house in Ostuni. And the moment you understand what Ostuni is, this listing hits differently. Ostuni is the White City, a hilltop cascade of white cubic buildings that catch the sunlight and reflect it across the valley, visible from miles away. It sits about 30 minutes from the Adriatic coast, surrounded by ancient olive groves and red earth that contrasts sharply with the white stone. That contrast becomes part of the identity, bright against dark, structured against organic. The town itself is a maze of narrow alleys, staircases, arches, and hidden courtyards, where the architecture feels closer to North Africa or the Greek islands than to northern Italy. It's one of the most recognizable towns in southern Italy, and property here at any price draws attention, especially when it retains original features, rather than being overly modernized. And that recognition adds another layer, not necessarily pressure, but awareness. You're not just buying a space, you're entering a place that already has a strong visual and cultural identity. The house has been completely renovated according to the listing, maintaining the typical features: exposed stone, solid wood furnishings, star vault ceilings. Those ceilings in particular define the interior. Curved, structured, visually distinctive, and tied directly to the region's construction methods. You enter into a single open room, kitchen fully equipped and functional on the left, overlooking the dining and living area. The proportions are compact but intentional, using the geometry of the space to create separation without walls. The bedroom sits in an ancient alcove, carved into the stone, with original niches now fitted with lighting that creates a soft atmosphere, reinforcing the sense that this is a space shaped over time rather than constructed all at once. There's a continuity between past and present in how the space is used. Full bathroom, with shower and ventilation. Air conditioning for both heating and cooling. No major renovations. Completely renovated, furnished, and ready to live in. That level of completion matters, especially in a historic center where renovation logistics can be complex. And the best part is, a renovated stone house with star vault ceilings and an alcove bedroom carved directly into ancient stone in the white city of Puglia for $92,300 resets what this price bracket means in southern Italy. New leader. But the next transition takes us north again, into the foothills of Piedmont, where the landscape shifts toward forests, altitude, and alpine influence. The Canavies area sits at the threshold between the flat Po Valley and the rising Alps, where the terrain begins to fold upward and the air cools noticeably. The shift is gradual but consistent. Elevation increases, temperatures drop, and the vegetation changes accordingly. The environment becomes more enclosed, more layered, with forests replacing open fields. That enclosure creates a different rhythm, quieter, more contained, with less visual exposure and more emphasis on immediate surroundings. Villages here are quieter, more dispersed, and deeply connected to outdoor life. Hiking, climbing, and seasonal movement tied to the landscape. There's less density, more separation between structures, and a stronger connection between built space and natural surroundings. The architecture reflects that environment: wood, stone, and structures designed for snow and elevation, often with overhanging roofs and balconies positioned for both function and view. It's a different Italy again, less coastal, more introspective, more aligned with the rhythms of the mountains. $104,000 at €89,000. A charming house in Alpette. Detached, set across 2 levels, with a terrace and 2 panoramic balconies. The listing highlights proximity to trails, including the route to Cima Mares, and notes the nearby astronomical observatory. A small but telling detail about the clarity of the sky in this area, and the limited light pollution that comes with it. That kind of detail doesn't appear in every listing. It suggests a location where environmental conditions are part of the appeal. Interior details are lighter in the listing, so verification applies, but the structure is there: mountain architecture, views, and outdoor access. The separation across levels suggests a layout that can adapt depending on use, whether seasonal or extended. And the best part is, a detached mountain house with 2 balconies, a terrace, and direct trail access in the Piedmont foothills for $104,000 is a lifestyle proposition that none of the previous properties can match. At the exact same price, though, there's a complete contrast, because now we move to Sardinia, an island, but not in the way people expect. Sardinia is raw, expansive, and still surprisingly underdeveloped outside its luxury pockets. The sense of space here is different, broader, more horizontal, with long stretches of coastline and interior areas that remain sparsely populated. The rhythm changes again. Less vertical, more expansive, with fewer visual barriers. That openness creates a different kind of freedom, not defined by elevation, but by distance and continuity. The north, especially around Sassari, combines coastal access with relatively accessible pricing. The water is clear, the beaches are wide, and the towns remain functional rather than purely touristic, which keeps pricing grounded compared to more saturated coastal regions elsewhere in Italy. Modern developments exist alongside traditional structures, and that's where this next property sits. $104,000 to 89,000 euros. Same price. Completely different world. A sea view apartment in Valladolid, completed in 2007, in a complex where every unit is positioned toward the water. This first floor unit includes a living area with kitchenette, a bathroom with window, a storage room, and a double bedroom, also with sea views. The positioning within the complex matters. First floor, elevated enough for perspective but still easily accessible. It balances convenience with outlook. The building's age matters. 2007 means modern construction standards, fewer structural unknowns, and lower maintenance compared to historic properties, which can carry hidden costs. No major renovations. Move-in ready. The simplicity of the layout also makes it easy to use immediately without reconfiguration. And the best part is, a modern sea view apartment in Sardinia for $104,000 shifts the entire conversation about what coastal Italy costs. Next, we move to Sicily, and the tone shifts again. Sicily is layered history, Greek, Roman, Arab, Norman, all visible in the architecture, the street layout, the materials. Towns feel denser, older, more textured, with a complexity that comes from centuries of overlapping influence. There's less uniformity, more variation, and a stronger sense of accumulated time. And that accumulation is visible not just in buildings, but in how spaces connect. Irregular, adaptive, shaped by centuries rather than plans. The west of the island, where Alcamo sits, combines inland character with coastal proximity, creating a balance between traditional town life and access to the sea. It's a place where renovation projects have become increasingly common, but this one stands out for a different reason. $105,200, 90,000 euros. A fully renovated 3-story apartment in Alcamo. And this is where the specification becomes the story. New roof with exposed wooden beams. New parquet flooring. Bathrooms with glass sinks and modern finishes. New windows, shutters, electrics, plumbing. The scope of work already completed removes uncertainty, one of the biggest variables in older properties. The only item left, installing a kitchen and furnishing, which allows the buyer to finish the space according to their own preferences without dealing with structural work. 3 floors. Small rooms on the first, main living space with terrace access on the top, bathrooms on each level, which increases usability and flexibility across the vertical layout. The separation of space also lends itself to different uses, depending on how the property is occupied over time. It can be segmented, adapted, or used in a more fluid way depending on needs. And the best part is, a fully certified renovation, 15 minutes from the Sicilian coast, with only cosmetic finishing left. For $105,200 is the most complete structural package on this list. Then we move back north, to Tuscany, but not the version most people imagine. Lunigiana is different, more rugged, more medieval, less polished. It sits between regions, and that shows in both architecture and pricing. There's a transitional quality to the landscape, part mountain, part hill country, with stone villages that feel embedded into the terrain rather than placed on top of it. The integration between built and natural space is tighter, more cohesive. That cohesion creates a sense of continuity. Nothing feels separate from its surroundings. Stone dominates. Villages are compact, and the landscape leans toward forest and hills rather than open fields, creating a more enclosed, intimate atmosphere. Movement through these spaces is slower, more deliberate, shaped by the physical constraints of the terrain. $111,000, 95,000 euros. A stone house in Villafranca in Lunigiana, accessed through a stone arch onto a cobbled lane. The approach itself sets the tone. Narrow, textured, and entirely consistent with the architectural identity of the area. Inside, living room, kitchen with terrace access, bedroom, bathroom, plus a renovated cellar below. Features include terracotta floors and brick vaulted ceilings, elements that carry a sense of continuity with the region's past. Gas heating installed, no major renovations. The proportions are traditional, the materials authentic, And the overall feeling is one of preservation rather than reinvention. And the best part is, this is pure atmosphere. The kind of property where the architecture does the storytelling for you without needing additional context. Final move, Veneto. Flat, efficient, connected. This is a region where infrastructure matters more than scenery, where proximity to cities like Treviso and Venice defines value. The landscape is more organized, more structured, with roads, rail, and services, forming a network that supports daily life in a way that's less dependent on geography. Movement is easier, faster, more predictable. That predictability becomes part of the appeal. Not dramatic, but reliable. The lifestyle here is practical, organized, and deeply tied to accessibility, where movement between places is part of the routine. It's less about isolation and more about connection. $128,600, 110,000 euros. An apartment in Macerata sul Piave. Entrance hall, living room with kitchenette, bathroom, double bedroom, terrace. Solid wood finishes. Double glazing, security door. The layout is efficient with no wasted space, and the finishes suggest a level of durability suited to everyday use. Everything is positioned for function first, and that function becomes the defining feature over time. Ease of use, simplicity, and consistency. And the detail that closes the list, a double garage. In this context, that's not just an extra, it's a functional upgrade that directly affects daily convenience. It simplifies daily life in a way that becomes more valuable over time. And the best part is, in a country where parking is often the daily problem no one talks about, 2 guaranteed spaces in the Veneto, 40 minutes from Venice, changes the entire ownership experience. 7 properties, 7 regions, 7 versions of Italy under $130,000.